Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel where my neurodivergent and niche interests come to play. And today we are going to be talking about handbags once more, but very specifically handbags that I have purchased that ended up being disappointing for one reason or another. When it comes to handbags, I am someone who shops almost pretty much trying to be exclusively secondhand, because I like to think while I am purchasing a large amount of consumer goods, it kind of helps me feel like maybe I am having just a little bit of sustainability amidst my purchasing mayhem. I understand that there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, but it makes me feel better. And again, I prefer doing secondhand because I think it does help kind of keep those 1% products a little bit away from the 1%. Probably not really, but like I said, it makes me feel better. And I think that secondhand, even though when it comes to thrifting and other things and Depop sellers and Mercari sellers, it's nowhere near as sustainable as it used to be, but it's still something that I like to advocate for. And as such, I mean, is with purchasing from anywhere, we don't always get it right. I like to try my best to do my due diligence when it comes to purchasing secondhand, especially when it comes to things that are as expensive and as faked as these handbags are. I look into materials, into the year it was made, just all sorts of varying factors that go into me eventually doing in the plunge of purchasing a expensive bougie overpriced handbag. And like I said in, my makeup channel, for any of those of you who came from there, just because something is super uber expensive, touted as being luxury or quality, money spent does not necessarily equate quality of a product. And with that being said, we might as well go into one of my most recent disappointments, not because it's like not a good handbag or I don't enjoy using it, just when I hold it up in comparison to other bags from the exact same brand, it just didn't have that same level of quality that I like to think that I would get for the price spent. As you would have seen in or if you haven't seen it, I will leave it down below, in my vintage Coach collection video. I didn't talk about any of my contemporary Coach items. I have a very deep love and passion for vintage Coach because during certain areas they do have a steady and consistent amount of quality for just straight up leather goods. This one is a fairly new to the Coach market. For any of you who have been in any sort of purse stratosphere, I am not really involved in like purse influencers because I have enough of my own whatevers that has me want to buy bags, and I don't need to be influenced by other people. But this is the Luna, and this is one that I am part of a handbag subreddit, and everyone and their mother was all for the Luna handbag, and I am not. I am just as guilty as they are. I finally bit the bullet on this. It took me a while to find one in the color that I wanted secondhand because this bag was ridiculously popular and it kept selling out and they kept coming up with new colors. And I finally found one in my price range, in the condition, secondhand, that I could, justify buying. And while this is a super uber cute handbag, it is done with pebbled leather. I adore pebbled leather because it is a very hardy leather. It takes a beating and it's just really good for an everyday handbag. It's got the cute details, the little Coach here and the little tab here, these little whatever things that you can change it to make it a different length. And while I do enjoy this bag and have used it and plan on continuously using it, compared to just some of the other Coach products I have, I found it to be a bit underwhelming, especially considering not just the price that I paid for it, but the price that it is originally. If I had paid full price for this, I would have been very upset. I am nowhere near as familiar with Coach's more contemporary, more of their newer products. I have a few, But when it comes to like Coach quality, typically I find myself really coming back to this more vintage. It's just a thicker, nicer, it feels more luxurious, it feels just a lot more sturdy, whereas this kind of just feels just not as well crafted. It's a nice bag, I like it, but when I have it in comparison to vintage bags like this, where I paid significantly less for them, it's just a bit underwhelming in comparison. Might as well continue on with another disappointing Coach. This is a legacy crossbody hobo bag. You would see in that collection video where I have ones of this same design, the legacy hobo, which has had a variety of styles and kind of not alterations, different versions throughout the years. And again, sort of with the Luna, I think because the Coach, the vintage Coach that I really like is from like the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, but not too much newer than that. Again, just taking this into comparison with, like I said, these ones right here, which is from the early 2000s, might even be from the 90s. If anyone is more of a Coach aficionado than I am, please let me know down below. I am not the best yet at just being able to identify Coach bags and what year they're from. It's a nice bag, but it's just not, I pulled it out and was expecting it to be the leather quality of those ones, and it just felt a little bit more, it's soft, it's nice, but again, it just doesn't have that same level of beat around, whack around, high quality craftsmanship and leather. It feels a bit more flimsy, just not as nice and luxurious and constructed well as other Coach and other vintage Coach that I have. I do love the nice flat bottom here. It keeps its shape real nice. You can put a lot of stuff in it without worrying about it like bowing out and losing its shape. Like the Legacy crossbody, it does come with a long strap. I like to take my straps off when I'm just having my bags in storage, where I rotate and kind of go back and forth between what ones I like to have easily accessible to switch up. And really straight up, like the other Coach, it really is just a matter of, compared to what I paid for this was $60, which is pretty on par for vintage Coach. Vintage Coach can go like exponentially expensive because it is higher quality, because there is less available, and because people like charging an exponential amount for vintage Coach just because it is vintage Coach. These next two Coach bags I am a little bit torn about, because there are elements that I really like and elements that make them more disappointing to me in comparison to what I like and what I know in my handbag. Knowing what I look for in a handbag when it comes to shape and structure and price point and materials and the years, I'm pretty sure these are going to be more in the like early 2000s era. One of which being, I believe this is a iteration of the Chelsea. Again, when it comes to Coach and vintage Coach, and honestly any kind of Coach, if you go online and you put in like Coach Chelsea, you will get a wide variety of similar looking bags with sort of the same elements to it, but in a different size and a different just structure and everything. While I do adore the color of this, like this is just absolutely fantastically green and amazing. I should probably pull this into a rotation so that I can use it and have a more definitive idea, like use it more, because I got it and I was like, I used it a little bit and was like, and then I reached for my bags that I obviously reach for all the ding dang time. I adore the size of this tag. I love this, except for the fact that it's just the single little flap right there. I think it would do it more justice if you could have both of these out and be like, I'm totally carrying a Kelly and a Birkin. Which we will have a video talking about varying tiers and levels of Birkin and Hermes lookalike bags for those of us who don't want to spend $20,000 for a handbag. Looking back, I would not have paid the price that I did for this. This was $80, which isn't out of the realm of possibility when it comes to vintage Coats and just designer handbags. That's unfortunately not a lot of money in that particular market. My main about this is how flimsy and how thin the straps are for how heavy this handbag is. It's pretty heavy leather-wise, but it also has great quality, nice quality on this, but the chains are just super heavy, very underwhelming, overwhelming. I worry about putting too much in this and then just having it be too much weight and too much of a strain on the straps, if it's going to make the glazing crack, if it's just going to cause wear more significantly and sooner compared to other ones I have that just feel a bit more structurally sound. I understand when it comes to vintage and older things, you're going to run into wear and tear and everything like that. I'm not a huge fan of the bottom. This is stuffed pretty full, and it's pretty pitiful looking when it doesn't have the stuffing in it. It's just kind of like, I'm kind of a sad, pitiful looking bag. It's really big. It doesn't like to keep its shape very much. I do appreciate the fact that it has two nice large pockets and then the zippered pocket in the middle. It's kind of like one of those things, like on paper, it's a great idea, but in the long run, compared to what I really like when it comes to handbags, this one was just sort of an out in left field that I probably should have waited on and done a bit more research into. Sort of more of the same. We have another Chelsea style. We have those same chain links here. We've got the little doodly flap right there. Part of one thing that I'm not a huge fan of this is the fact that it is just straight up right open. There isn't any kind of snap closure. There isn't any kind of zipper. That's really something that's on me. Again, when it comes to these things, it's if I haven't done my due diligence or haven't done more research into the handbag, the years it was created, you know, the correlating quality. And this was fairly earlier on in like my my vintage and my higher quality bag purchasing. And I think I just, again, I didn't have enough knowledge about what I was getting into. It has really nice elements like the hang tag here. The chains on this one are nowhere near as overwhelming, so it's a lot lighter than the green one. It sits nice on the arm going like here. I'm actually I'm fairly fond of handbags that sit like this. It's either crossbody like down here or this size right here, or something I can carry on my arm like that. And while this one I think is a better quality of leather, or at least I like the kind of leather, because Coach has glove tanned, which is my absolute favorite. They do cowhide, they have pebbled, they have a wide variety of different kinds of leather to suit your needs. And I do like this stuff, again, a lot better than that green one. I should probably also pull this one into a rotation. It's got nice details, and it's just one of those things that getting it and pulling it out, I thought it was going to be a bit more luxurious than it is. It looks nice and well crafted, just again, as I seem to be saying throughout this video, in comparison to the wide variety of Coach that I have, either contemporary or vintage. These two just fell a bit short for me. Next on the docket is actually a few handbags from Fendi, which does venture up and forward up into the higher price point. So things are disappointing when they don't work out, but when they cost a lot more money, I feel like they're even more disappointing. This is a vintage, I'm not sure if I can pronounce it right, Picoin. I will put the spelling right here, and it's this stripe thing going on. That's the iconic Fendi pattern print, these lovely stripes. And I found this one. I was in the market for one for a while, and I really liked the black with the green. I like the more subtle branding of this rather than it just being like a whole bunch of F's and a whole bunch of Fendi all over this. This one was pretty early on in me buying my more expensive and my more luxurious and my more high-end designer handbags. I thought that it was going to be a bit hardier, and this bag and another one I'm going to show you is a lot of the reason why I prefer to purchase mostly or all leather handbags versus something like fabric. For being vintage and as old as it is in really nice shape. It doesn't have a lot of storing in it. It's pretty nice like that, but my biggest problem with this is the fact that it does feel so delicate, which again, I understand happens when you were buying older handbags. They've just existed longer. They tend to have more wear and tear. And while the leather on this strap is really, really nice, we don't have any kind of fraying or any kind of really gnarly damage to the strap. It is just, again, a little bit... I put a lot in my handbags, and I feel like this would be more of like a, oh, this is my outfit. This is my, you know, my styled handbag versus one that I'm going to be able to throw around and take to my job with me. Again, like I said, this one really is kind of due to my own inexperience when purchasing this and due to my own not really at the start knowing what I really like and look for in a handbag, whereas I never ever would have paid what I paid for this if I had been able to see it like firsthand. It's just one of those things that looks like really nice in my collection. I'm like, ooh, look at my lovely striped Pekin Fendi handbag, whereas it just kind of sits there and looks pretty rather than not getting used in comparison to my Fendi Peekaboos and other handbags that I have in my collection that are more leather constructed and just a little bit less dainty. A little bit less, just like 1%, because I need a bag that's going to take a beating. I'm not going around Rodeo Drive. I'm not being all nice, special, and dainty. So yeah, it's pretty and it's beautiful, but looking back, this is not one I would have invested in. Next up is another Fendi from sort of that same whatever. This is another Pekin whatever bag going on here. And while I enjoy and love this one more than that other one, this is just absolutely gorgeous. I love the color of the stripes. I love the little keychain here going on. It's just a really nice and aesthetically pleasing looking bag. However, we run into the same problem of it being a more delicate, not a bag that I'm going to be using to be lugging around my stuff, which now in what I look for in a handbag really does include if I can beat it up, if I can just take it and throw it around. Whereas with the other one, this one is a more like a date night handbag or a going out somewhere where you don't have to worry about your handbag because God forbid you get anything on this, that's going to be it. You spill anything on it, it gets wet, it gets whatever. Cloth and fabric, unless you get it treated, which if I do end up keeping this one, I might like try to Scotch guard it. It's just a lot more worry and a lot more consideration, and I am not a big fan of bags that I have to baby, which is probably why, aside from ridiculous price point, I will never own a Chanel, because they're like, we like soft, luscious lambskin, and for a bag that I can't abuse, they charge an awful lot of money. It's a little bit sad because I really love the look of this, but it just doesn't lend itself to being a bag that I can, again, really throw around. And with the way that my life and my existence is right now, I just don't really have a lot of need or a lot of space, again, for bags that I need to baby that just sit there on my shelf for that 1 or 2 or 3 times a year that I use it, because I don't have to worry about it getting messed up. We have the final Fendi, which is more, this is less of like, oh, it's disappointing because it doesn't feel as luxurious or it's difficult to take care of. It's just, it is a bag that I kind of got, I didn't get suckered in because no one was like, yeah, you gotta buy this bag. I got the idea. It's like, oh, I need this one. It's iconic. It's beautiful. It's amazing. My collection will die if I don't have this handbag in it. And that is a Fendi Spy bag. I think this is the baby Spy bag because the regular Spy bag has like a flap over it with like a place where you can put drugs, because quite frankly, if you're a 1%er and you're carrying a bag with a little whatever, it's gonna have drugs in it, or maybe cigarettes or something. I really enjoy the details on this bag, the intricate braiding, the little knots here. I like the long zipper flap right here. It's really pretty, really soft leather. That, again, this is a vintage item, so wear and tear and all that jazz. This would have been from the early 2000s, I think around 2005. And while it's a really cute handbag that you can really only wear one way, back in the day, I only ever wore my bags, I just walk around like this and just, whereas now I'm much more practical and I really appreciate a crossbody or a longer strap that can sit right here like this. The leather is just something that is a lot more, it's a lot softer than other leathers that I prefer. Again, like I keep saying in this, I like a hardy leather that's able to keep its shape, whereas this tends to have a little more bagging and a little bit more just losing its shape the more I put into it. This is just, I don't know if it's due to the age or if it's due to the style and the materials that it's made out of. It is a lot more delicate and something that I would have to think about more when I'm carrying it versus like my Tory Burch-Lee Radziwill or my Fendi Peekaboos even, and a lot of my Coach where I can just fling it into the other side and then gently take care of it and put it back where it's supposed to be as I do more rotation. This is just a bag that I don't really reach for because it doesn't have a very practical element for the lifestyle that I have, and I take that into a lot more consideration now than I did in the beginning. I was just like, oh, this is fancy. Oh, this is iconic. This is whatever. I need it. Whereas now I'm like, iconic is great, but maybe go for iconic with a quality that matches it. And it's good and it's nice quality, and I don't feel bad for the amount of money I spent on it. A little bit maybe, because again, I just don't reach for it because it's so dainty. It's so nice and pretty, and like I'm not going on Rodeo Drive. I'm going to my job with monsters and all kinds of shit all up in my bag. It's not conducive to a little nice light bag. I figured we could end on a slightly humorous note. One of my absolute favorite end all be all handbags is this vintage Gucci Jackie. This is just, I love everything about this bag. I was obsessed with it when I got it, and then when I got it, it ended up being all that and even more. Like, it's smaller than I typically care for, but it holds just the right amount. It's got a little bit of going out to it, but it's also just a bit more practical. The leather is amazing. It's pebbled, it's brown. I mean, when I saw this for the price that it was, I was like, oh, beautiful. Because the Gucci Jackie, again, if you're in any kind of the purse stratosphere, we focused, you know that this is a heavily iconic and coveted one, especially since Gucci did the reissue, which I will never own one of those, and I'm happy to buy vintage when it's able to come up. Everything about this did everything for me, and I am constantly on the lookout for lookalikes, which we will be doing a video kind of with the Hermes. We're going to do one talking about the tiers of Jackie lookalikes as well. So in that interim of looking for, I like the size, I love the size, and that's part of what I like about this style of the Jackie is that more compact size. So I was going through Mercari, minding my own business, when I saw a bag from Dooney and Burke, which is another brand that is very near and dear to my heart, that has a really good level of quality that I've come to just, it's really, really consistent. And I found a style and I was like, oh, look at this. It's like the Gucci Jackie. It's Dooney and Burke, so it's a bunch less money. It's pebbled leather and it's green. And I'm not entirely sure what I was on or what I was whatever. I didn't do my due diligence because when it comes to size, I am terrible. Even with reading the measurements and doing the measurements, I just have a really hard time putting that into an actual physical representation in my mind. And so this one really is a my own mistake, but I got the box and I was like, that looks pretty big, and can we just the size of this thing, especially in comparison to what I was hoping it to be similar to, where you have this nice little, and then you've got, I mean, this thing is huge. The color is amazing, the clasp is amazing. I love the fact that it's got these little feet, but it's absolutely massive. I'm not even gonna lie, I haven't taken this bag out yet because it just seems so ridiculous and large and massive. I don't even know if they make this in a smaller size. I agonized over a couple different ones because I was like, oh, I don't want one that's an XXX extra large, where I guess I ended up getting one that was pretty large. Holding it now and looking at it, I think I might need to pull this out because it is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful handbag. It doesn't have a crossbody, but you can wear it like this and on your elbow if you want to break your arm. Dooney and Burke has fantastic, great quality. Like I said, the majority of my stuff is purchased secondhand, so if you can get Dooney and Burke for those secondhand prices, highly, highly recommend it. Kind of like vintage coats. It just falls under that really great tier of quality for a lesser price compared to those higher end whatever, although it's still really expensive. And finding out that Dooney and like Coach are like mid-tier, they're considered contemporary. I'm like, Coach charges $500 for a handbag. I feel that's a little bit more than contemporary or whatever. But this one was a mistake of my own doing. I'm actually feeling pretty vibed about it now that I've got it here, and I might actually take stuff out of my other bag and put it in this. I'm going out and seeing Emma later. But it just goes to show that when you're looking for a similar bag, and just pay attention to the measurements, be better than me, do your due diligence, and then you won't have to deal with handbags larger than your head. I mean, this handbag is like a 38 rib cage here. All right, and that is the end of that video. I am really, really, really excited to continue pursuing fashion and purse content for you all. It's getting me really excited to talk about my varying interests to people who I hope will maybe find like-minded people. If you have a disappointing purse purchase, definitely let me know down below. If you made it this far, give yourself a giant gold fucking star. You deserve it for listening to me babble on about my niche interests for a half hour. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video or vlog. Bye!